Representative Josh West, Representative Marcus McEntire, you are recognized to introduce the Veteran of the Week.
All right, I'm going to say a few words before Marcus gets up here. It's good to get to meet and say some good things about the guy that used to scuff up McEntire. So, I've mentioned before on this House floor our Vietnam generation. We all know about the greatest generation, those World War II men and women, and we love them. But the biggest influence on my life, and a lot of people in my generation, was that Vietnam generation. And as I've mentioned before, they did not get the credit they deserved and the welcome back from our country. And so I will always do what I can to ensure that my generation shows them that we love them, and they did for us. We didn't have to go through the same stuff that they did, and they took it upon themselves to ensure that my generation did not have to go through that. So over 58,000 U.S. service members lost their lives in Vietnam, and I just want you to know, Mr. McEntire, we appreciate you, we love you, and thank you for your service. I'll now let McEntire come up here and say some good things about his father.
Let's see if I can do this. I would like to introduce all of you members to my dad. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he served the country in the U.S. Marine Corps at a time of cultural upheaval and an unpopular war and brutal war. His life has been shaped by his service to our country, and as Josh just said, many Vietnam vets were not welcome home with a thank you, much less a ticker tape parade. I remember on my 19th birthday how lucky I was. I was in my front yard and I had my fishing tube. It was my birthday and I was going to go fishing. And my mind shot to what my dad experienced on his 19th birthday. When he was 19, he was fighting, shooting, surviving on some numbered hill or in some valley in the jungles of Vietnam, where he saw many of his friends perish. But thank God he saw a lot more enemy perish. Of the types of people who've seen action in a war, there are those who don't talk about it and those who do talk about it. My dad is one of those who does talk about it. He talks about his war experiences often. I've heard his war stories all my life, the good stories and the really horrible ones too. Most conversations with Jiggs, it's my dad's name, Jiggs, they inevitably end up somewhere in Vietnam. You'll have a conversation and it'll meander to Vietnam. And it used to bug me because I didn't understand why most conversations start at one point and then end up in Vietnam. But about 10 years ago, I heard a lecture from professors at Texas Christian University's Bright Divinity School who talked about veterans who tell and retell their war experiences. It's a coping mechanism for dealing with what they call a moral injury. And a moral injury can occur in reaction to a traumatic event in which deeply held morals or values are violated. The resulting distress may lead to PTSD, depression, and other disorders in which feelings such as guilt, shame, and betrayal and anger are prevalent. My dad is one of my heroes. He's a really good man. He's not only taught me about character, integrity, loyalty, fidelity, honesty, and valor, but he's exemplified it in his everyday life and his honorable service to our country. So I love you, Dad. And I always said if I ever got in this position and would be able to do this, I would honor my old man. And Dad, we're proud of you. Mr. Speaker, if the clerk can read the citation.
It would be a great honor. The clerk will read.
Whereas G.L. Jiggs McEntire is a resident of House District 50 in Duncan, Oklahoma, father of State Representative Marcus McEntire, and honorably served in the United States Marine Corps. Whereas G.L. Jiggs McEntire received the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Purple Heart Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Good Conduct Medal, and the Rifle Marksman Badge during his service. And whereas G.L. Jiggs McEntire earned a degree from Cameron University in Lawton through the GI Bill and had a successful career as owner of the Duncan Candy and Tobacco Company. He and his wife Annette have 3 sons and 1 daughter. He served his country as a soldier, protecting all Americans from enemies both foreign and domestic. And whereas the state of Oklahoma holds our veterans in the highest esteem and appreciates the sacrifices and contributions they have made to preserve our freedoms and ways of life. And whereas the Oklahoma House of Representatives takes great pride in honoring you as Veteran of the Week.
Thank you. Thank you, members, for welcoming this Vietnam vet home. I would like to introduce my daughter down here, who came as moral support to my dad, and my mother is up in the South Gallery with her hand raised. That is my mother, Annette, and of course, my beautiful wife, Lee, is here as well.